All of this, plus this, has created one of the best sounding 997 turbos in the world. Welcome to John Cleese Car Audio's YouTube channel. This video is all about the 997 911 Gen 2 that's behind me. Came in because the customer had a faulty PCM system. The factory screen in the front had actually gone down, but then decided instead of just changing the PCM system, upgrading it, they wanted to go for a full audio upgrade. Now, this car originally came with Bose audio, so it had a factory upgrade from standard. The customer wanted to go that bit better. The system in this is going to be pretty special. It's not an entry-level system by any means. We're going for a fairly high-end Morel audio upgrade. As always, I'm pretty late to the party. We're a couple of days into it. I haven't been able to get some beginning, but we are going to try and get a lot of behind-the-scenes install footage to show you, where things go, what we're using, and what things look like behind the scenes. Not necessarily just a walk-around video at the end, which some of our videos, unfortunately, a lot of our videos are like that, just mainly down to time constraints. Now I'm going to give you a little run through on the system this is having. Most of it has been decided. We've still got a couple of bits we are to decide as of yet. But let's start with the doors, front speakers. What we're going for in these are the rather large Morel MW9 9-inch mid-bass, sub-bass drivers. These are absolutely astonishing on paper. They literally drop down to 25 hertz, so you technically could use them as subwoofers. Now this application is, we're not having a subwoofer because the customer doesn't want any additional subwoofer box in the vehicle, and because it's a convertible, there's not much space other than the footwell. Now the customer doesn't want a bigger box built down there, so we're going to try and get as much space we can out of the Morel 9s. So these are going to be pretty much naturally rolling off. We're going to put them on a low pass probably. We'll see what it sounds like at the end. But we've got a 9-inch Morel in custom ply baffle we've made here. And then what we've fully done, which I can't show you unfortunately, is this inner skin framework comes off, and they've actually fully soundproofed the outer skin with 2 layers. So what we've done is we put full Dynamat 2mm extreme on the outer skin, and then we put a 6mm foam liner on top of that, which is closed cell, designed to work in wetter environments. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to fully soundproof the inner skin. We've started down here, Simon has, but we've still got to fully soundproof this. But the mid basses are in. Now, because these are going to move quite a lot, and they're going to produce quite a lot of bottom end, we're going to have to fully soundproof the door cards as well. Now, you've probably seen a lot of our videos. We like to fully soundproof on the higher end audio systems, so soundproofing is a must. But this customer doesn't want to add loads and loads of weight, so we're not going to fully soundproof the vehicle like one of the other cars we've done, because we've actually done a Defender for this customer where we fully soundproof the whole vehicle. But this customer only wants to concentrate on where the audio's going. We're soundproofing the front doors and we're soundproofing the rear quarters. When it comes to the rest of the speakers, because I've explained we're putting the Morel MW9 9 inches in, which you can see are in sight right there. We're going to put the Morel MW3 mids in. We're going to put the Morel hybrid rear coaxials in the back for a bit of rear fill. They're going to just be purely running off the head unit for a bit of surround rear fill. We don't want them overpowering the front end system, so we're not going too much in the back. Tweeters on the 997 platform, if you're already aware, you haven't got a lot of space to play with. That's it there. There's the grille removed. You're very limited as to what you can put behind the factory grille. Now, one of the briefs in this car, or the main brief, is we don't want to really see anything. The customer wants it to be the speakers completely behind, ideally behind all the original panels. At best, having a tweeter surface mounted but flushed in the grille. That's like the worst case scenario, but customer ideally wants it hidden. So tweeters are TBA. You'll see them later on in the video, but right now, as of the second day into install, we haven't actually decided on tweeters. Head unit I explained was faulty, so we're replacing that old PCM. You can't really see, but there is actually a big crack across the screen as well. So that's getting taken out, and we're putting the top of the range Kenwood 9190 in. We're going to retain things like the steering wheel control, so it will be a seamless integration. The face will be a matching black to match the dashboard surround, because this is a Gen 2 997. Customer wants a phone cradle, so we're going to put that in as well. And then amplification, I don't think it's down here yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to put the Audison 4s amplifier in, which is a multi-channel amplifier with a built-in digital signal processor. That's going to hopefully be hidden underneath the driver's seat where the original Bose amp would be. So you'll see that later on in the video. And that is quite a simple layout of system. We're going to have 4 channels bridge to run the Morel 9 inches. We're going to have 2 channels to run the Morel mids, and then we're going to have 2 channels to run the Morel tweeters, leaving the rear speakers just running off the head unit, as I mentioned. Pretty simple system. Oh, there's the amp. Simon's got it over there. There's it in the box. Quite a nice one. I'll get a close up. You can see it. I think we're going with the AFM 8.14. If I rotate around, there you go. Yep. Cracking amplifier. On this, you've got 90 watts RMS times 4. On the bridge side, you've got 280 watts RMS bridge. So what we're basically saying is you're going to get 280 watts RMS into each mid bass driver, and then you get 90 watts RMS into mid tweeter. So very simple system in terms of layout. Not simple enough to fit, because just putting those 9s in the doors are a bit of work with collars that aren't available off the shelf. You have to make them for these speakers, but they are probably the largest speaker you're going to get in this platform, because these are a higher end system. You know, we're not talking about basic 9s here, we're talking about £1,500 woofers in the front doors of this. We normally, our go-to speaker was the Prima AP8s Audison speakers, which they're pretty good, but you know, they're only a sub £200 pair of speakers. They're more designed for a slightly lower end system, but this customer wanted a much higher end system. Anyway, I've blabbered on quite enough for this first clip. So I'm going to be back and forward with this installation, because it's going to take probably a couple of weeks up to for one guy, for Simon to get on with. So I will show you as much as I can throughout this video. We'll see you soon. Now, I did mention we didn't have any behind the scenes footage of this door being soundproof. Actually, I didn't realise that Simon, my colleague, actually took it upon himself and set the camera up and did it. So you're going to see that right now. Back soon. Now you see my colleague Simon fully soundproofed the outer skin. I wanted to get one last look of these Morel MW9 9-inch mid basses before the door card goes on, because they're absolute thing of beauty. This collar, I didn't mention it earlier, but actually is nut and bolted to the door, so extremely secure. And also it can be removed and put back in a few times without obviously things like the wood blowing or the metal getting worn out. It's going to be fully secure and removable should it need to be taken out and put back in the future. One final look of the doors before we move on to the door card. As you can see now, the whole inner skin is fully soundproof with Dynamat Extreme. And then what we've also done, which you don't see but it's always worth mentioning, is we've run brand new cabling for the mid tweeter and the mid bass driver, so that these cables here run through the factory convoluted tubing or grommet, whatever you want to call it, out through the factory grommet exit here, and goes to the new speaker, goes to the new mid, and eventually it will go to the new tweeter as well. All brand new cabling straight to the amplifier rather than using the existing. Now there's nothing exactly wrong with the existing cable, which we will use on a lot of the other slightly lower end audio system upgrades, but for a system of this caliber it would make perfect sense while we're in here to run brand new cabling and have better cabling go to those speakers. Simple as that. And then there's Simon over on the other side carrying on with the monotonous job of soundproofing a door. Nothing exciting about this part of the job, is there really?
I love it.
You can tell the sarcasm. But yeah, onto the door cards next, and then that will be completely hidden, so these speakers will all go behind the original panel, so it'll be completely, well, original really. You won't really know what you've done. In fact, it will still have the Bose logos on the door speaker grills, unless we do something about that. You never know. Let's quickly show you the mid ranges that's going in the front doors of this, the 3-inch mid, which are going to be running actively off the Audison amplifier on 2 of the channels I mentioned earlier. The Morel Elate Carbons. I've never done an unboxing video in my life, so excuse this is going to be a bit rough, but we're going to give it a go, because they've just arrived and I want to show you what they look like. The MM3 Elate Carbon Pros from Morel. Nice looking box actually, black covered foam, and then you get the speaker with their grills. Now we're not using the grill, so as much as these Lotus grills are extremely nice, they're coming off, means we don't need the outer surround either, that can come off. And that's it there. Lovely looking mid, good high power handling, over 100 watts RMS at the single speaker. Simple layout, big motor and voice coil on the back. It's a lot bigger than the factory one, because if I grab the factory Porsche speaker, there it is there. And then there's the Morel mid. much larger magnet and motor on the back of it. I mean, this weighs next to nothing. It feels cheap and nasty, unfortunately, but it's just mass-produced speakers, you know. It's never seen Bose's factory, but they're mass-produced, and they're probably good in their day. You know, this car's a 2011 at the end of the day, so they probably did their job, but they're now 13 years old, roughly, and time for an upgrade. That's what that's going in. Now, a couple of sets of tweeters have arrived already. Like I said earlier, we're not 100% sure yet, because it depends on what's going to fit, but what I'll do is I'll quickly show you the tweeters that are going to be hopefully options. These are the Morel MT120s. We fitted these in a Cayman recently. For the price, they perform extremely well. Not a very high-end tweeter, but still a hell of a lot better than the Bose speaker as standard. That's one option, which is there. And then if they can go, we've also got the Morel MT300s, which are these ones. Slightly bigger diaphragm, bigger motor, higher end on the Morel system. Don't look much different, but actually they are a far superior tweeter to the MT120s. And again, once you take this tweeter out of this plastic surround, this hopefully will fit behind the original grille. So we've got to offer these all up. They do a lot higher tweeters higher than this. They've got the MT450s, they've got the Elate Carbon Pros, the Supremos, but unfortunately none of them are going to fit underneath the original grills. Like I mentioned earlier, having them all hidden and keeping this system looking pretty much original, apart from the Kenwood head unit in front, is paramount. So we've got to literally offer up these tweeters and see what fits. Number 4 on this 911 Turbo. I've just popped down to see how Simon's getting on. We are now at a position where the mids are ready to go in. Those M3s I showed you earlier on in the video, these are now mounted in the custom mount we've made. Made it out of ply, painted it black just so it's more disguised behind the door card itself. And then what we've also done, if I zoom in, we've actually put threaded inserts in all 4 corners of the mount, so the speaker's actually bolted in opposed to, you know, self-tapping screws. That is going to go into the original position down here on the back of the door card with the original Bose speaker, just like so, on the original mounting points. So no modification to his door card for the mid-range. And then we're going to soundproof those door cards fully shortly, which you're going to see on a time-lapse video of my colleague doing that. And we finally decided what tweeters we're putting in this, because after a lot of measurements, we've realised that the largest Morel matching tweeters that are going to go with this system, that are going to fit behind the original grills, are the MT450s from the Elate Carbon range. I'm going to open these up and get them out and have a look. Nice looking tweeter, got the standard Lotus looking grille here. Obscene power handling. Believe it or not, these pair of tweeters can handle up to, I think, 100 watts RMS. They're absolutely astonishing. And then they're from the Elate Carbon series, which is one of their higher end levels. Not the best, there's a couple of levels down from the top of the range, but extremely good tweeters. And these are going to gel nicely with the mids and mid basses. But anyway, that's enough for this part of the clip. I'm going to keep coming back throughout this whole progress. You'll see. See you soon. Door card's completely soundproof now, as you just saw in that little video. It's not a massive door card, so you can't use exact stupid amounts of material, but what we've got is, as you saw, we've got extreme Dynamat underneath as the first layer, and then we've got the 15mm Dodo liner on top. We avoid areas we don't or shouldn't do, which is like this area here is where the airbag's going to pop off, so naturally we do not touch that. The mid-range is installed now in its tidy position behind the original grille. You're not really going to notice that behind, well, you're not going to notice that from the front, because if I show you the front, it looks all still original. It's how the customer wanted it. In the corner there, you may notice it, there's a foam ring we put round. The reason we do that, which I've showed you many times in other videos, is that gets rid of the gap between the door card and the metalwork of the door, allowing all the energy from that 9-inch mid-bass to come through this grille to obviously get into the cockpit of the vehicle where you're listening. We don't want any air escaping and making its way down the door card, causing unnecessary vibration and resonance. We want all the energy to come through this grille. That's why that's there. These door cards are about to go on now, so the next part of the clip will door cards be back together, and then we're gonna, well, who knows what we're gonna move on to next. Maybe the tweeters, maybe the amp. That only Simon knows. Oh, and here's the rear speakers. They're in. Simon's recreated the factory mount that the old speakers, the old Bose speakers were in out of ply, painted it black just so it doesn't look like wood, and then mounted the new Morel hybrids back into that position. These are just a coaxial, so the tweeter is actually built into the middle of these. But there you go, that's from the front before we put the grille on. and then the grill's going to go back on and you won't see it. So the inside of the car is staying factory. Yeah, it'll work, that's nice. And there you go. Rear Morel hybrids, all fitted in original rear speaker location where the Bose speaker used to be. In fact, we should be able to give a side by side of the Morel hybrid and the Bose actually. Here's the Morel hybrid speaker that we're fitting. And Simon's just grabbing me the Bose speaker to put a side by side comparison. Oh, there you go. There's the traditional paper and plastic mid and tweeter. It's actually smaller, it's like a 3-inch mid with a tweeter next to it. Not necessary to have components in the back for a bit of rear fill. We don't need that complexity on this system, so we've gone for a coaxial mid and tweeter, but you can see the difference straight there. And if I turn it around, there's the magnet and the motor of the Morel hybrid, and there's the motor and the magnet of the factory Bose speaker. Massive differences, but it doesn't need to be too crazy. Like I say, these are just rear fill and only running off the head unit, but still a hell of a lot better than that factory speaker. So if the customer decides to have people in the back, very small people in the back, then it's going to sound a lot better, and they've still got the rear fill, so for surround sound rather than just front speakers, because they wanted all the speakers still working in the car, so we upgraded the rears like that. Simples. And Simon decided to go ahead with the amplifier installation, so now we are currently installing the amp and cabling it all up. Door cards are back on, as you can see, all looking back to original again. John Clee's best employee down there as well today. The driver's seat is out for this because the factory Bose amplifier is situated under the driver's seat, so we put the new amplifier, the Audison AFM 8.14 in the factory position, which means it's all buried and hidden. All cables neatly go underneath the carpet behind every trim and then back up to the head unit. So what we've got, cabling is ready to go for the new stereo there, so our new very expensive high-end Stinger RCAs are there. We've also fitted an extra blue set. Reason why we've done that is because we haven't quite decided yet. We may retain the factory Bose subwoofer. We're going to see how it plays, because with these very high-end 9-inch woofers, we may not need subwoofer working because they'll play quite low, but you never know, they might be more beneficial to have them on a band pass where they only play mid bass and they don't play subwoofer bass. So we're going to play that subwoofer, see how it acts. You never know, it might fill in 50 hertz down and sound really good and just give you that really bottom end low frequency and let the door speakers play what they're best at, which is the mid bass and, you know, upper end, lower mid range section. So we're going to try that. That's why the blue RCA is in there, just so we can plumb the original subwoofer in, give it a try, see how it sounds like. If it don't sound that good, no problem, we'll just disconnect it and let the doors play what we need to do. Rear speakers are fully back together almost. We just need to put the grill on. So one final look of the rear Morel hybrid 4-inch speaker in the rear quarters of this Porsche is all there. But yeah, I think the head unit's on its way to getting fitted as well. I'll show you that. This is the Kenwood DNX9190, and there it is in the matching black fascia, all mounted, ready to go in the dash. My cameraman Max is back from annual leave, so I'm not having to hold the camera for the finishing part of this video on this Porsche. So I left it a second ago where Simon was mounting the screen in the dash, well, in the fascia. He's now mounted it in the dash. So we've got the Kenwood fully installed. We'll power that on shortly. Customer's gone for an additional phone cradle because they wanted a proper cradle where they just dock the iPhone in and it just straight charges. No having to manually plug a lead in. She just plugs her phone in, turns it on, it charges. That's a fast charger as well. Tweeters, like I mentioned, we went for the MT450s. They just about went in the factory positions. I'm sure Max is putting some B-roll over right now to show what they look like without the grills, but now the grills are back on, it looks completely factory in here other than the Kenwood screen. You wouldn't believe this car was running such a high-end system because it's all hidden. I'm going to turn the Kenwood on just so you can see the Porsche logo. So we've done the Porsche logo, that comes on. In the centre console here, we've put the USBs, get a better position. So in the centre console, you've got the 2 USBs to the Kenwood, along with a bit of the customer storage stuff that's already been in here. So the USBs are in a nice, easy access. But because that unit's got wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, a lot of other features, you don't necessarily need to plug it in. Now, whilst we're on the head unit, I'll give you a quick run through what the Kenwood DNX9190 does. Starting from the top, We have built-in Garmin European navigation built in. This is a 720p HD screen, so Garmin navigation looks really crisp. This means the customer doesn't necessarily have to have their phone to know where they're going, even if the phone runs out of battery, or generally the network ran out, or anything, or just general operation of the phone at all. They've got built-in European navigation, so they've always got that backup. We have Apple CarPlay wireless. My phone's already connected, so if I go to CarPlay, I've now got CarPlay on the screen. And I can scroll through. It's a capacitive touchscreen, so it's super responsive. So now I've got access to Apple Maps, Google Maps, TomTom if you pay for it, and music streaming apps like Spotify is going to work. I personally use YouTube Music and Tidal, that's why they're on there. We've got, even going down to basics, you've still got a CD player. So if I hit the open button, the unit's going to reveal a SD card slot and a DVD CD player if you still play CDs. The unit, because it's a motorised screen, also gives you the ability to choose different viewing angles. So if the head unit's much lower down, you can choose not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but even 5 viewing angles. And if you've got a transporter and you're worried about glare, this is also a great unit, because if you put it in inverted mode, it actually goes against the angle of your dashboard in your transporter, meaning less glare. And this is the only unit that supports that. So yeah, you've got all that. You've also got things like DAB radio built in, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, HDMI in if you want to plug an Amazon Fire Stick in. Literally has every possible option known to man. It's the best head unit available right now, other than like 9-inch floating screens if you know that's your forte. DAB requires an aerial to be added on the Porsches. You can utilize the original aerials on these using an adapter, but actually the reception's not that great because the factory aerials in these windscreens aren't brilliant. So what we've done is we've tried to make the best of a bad situation, because no one on these cars wants an aerial stuck on their windscreen if they don't have to. So what we've done, because it's a convertible, you can't put it on the rear window. This is a hardtop, by the way, edition. We've actually got the aerial for DAB up at the top here behind the interior light cluster, which I can't even see from the driver's seat. It's extremely subtle, but it still works. Near there, we've also got the microphone. Now, you don't want to bury a microphone if you can help it, because the microphone has echo suppression built in. So we want the microphone to be pointing at the client's mouth and as far away from the speakers as possible for the best sound quality for phone calls, which is paramount to our customer. So yeah, we've done the most subtlest installation of the accessories, because we can, Porsche owners and people, a lot of people in general want things hidden. We get that. You know, GPS aerials hidden, but a customer wanted a phone cradle on, so it's not like they're not open to the elements of aftermarket, you know, looking. What we'll do is we'll go around the back now and we'll go through a recap of all the equipment and actually some pricing on like this, how much this Kenwood cost. Now before I get out, I want to give you a little bit of insight and introduction into the reason why we go for the amplifier we go on this, which is the Audison Forza DSP amplifier, which stands for digital signal processing. These speakers are quite high end. They're, you know, carbon elate Morel speakers. We're talking about a £3,000 front end setup here. Can't just be running that off a basic amplifier. You need some kind of DSP. And the reason we want DSP is because it gives you really two main functions. Okay, one being time correction, and the other being bespoke equalization set up by ourselves. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of run through about what they mean. Very basic. I'm not going to go into technical stuff on it. So time correction, what that allows us to do as a company, it allows us to measure each individual speaker to where the position of the person would be sitting, which is, for example, this is the seating position of memory 1 of this car, which is the owner of the car. It allows us to measure each speaker to where the ears of the driver is. And then what that does, when you put it into the amplifier, those measurements, it basically creates the sound stage rather than the sound coming from the doors, left, the right. You can't hear the sound coming from these speakers anymore. It will make it sound like it's coming from inside, across the top of the dashboard. I've heard this car and it is pinpoint perfect. The vocals sound like they're coming by this lap timer in the middle of a dash here, and I can hear instruments playing on the front left, I can hear instruments playing on the front right. The width of the soundstage almost goes out the doors, even if that's not physically possible because the speakers are inside the car, but it sounds that wide. It's really incredible. Time correction just really is the icing on the cake of any system. And also with the equalization, it allows us to fine tune an audio setup for the, well, how we want to do it, or we can fine tune it how you want to do it. If you have a particular taste in sound and you can explain that to us, then we can fine tune the exact results that you would like. Otherwise, we know how to set up a system here and we create great results based on how we set them up to our preference. We don't really get people that want it any different to us, but if they do, then we can fine tune it. But an equalization is done using an RTA, which is a real-time analyzer. We sit the microphone in the seat, about where the driver's going to be, and then it measures the whole frequencies of the spectrum in this car and allows us to iron out any peaks and any troughs caused by the environment of a car, because every single interior of every spec is different, down to convertibles. This is a hard top, obviously additional hard top, but if it was a convertible, it'd be different. Leather interior versus cloth interior makes a difference to the sound. 4-door, 5 doors, estates, SUVs, they're all different. So if you can't fully fine tune the equipment, then every car is going to sound different, and you're not going to be able to fine tune an EQ without a DSP. So that's why we fit them. It's extremely important, especially on the caliber of this speakers. You know, other than that, there's obviously a lot of more technical advancements of a DSP, but that's the basics.
It's like you're at a concert.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Almost sounds like you're at a concert, you know, where you or you're sitting in front of a band and you've got the singer in front of you and you've got the drummer behind and you've got the bass guitarist over there and the guitarist over there. It recreates that, you know, that reproduction. It almost sounds like you're listening to them recording in a studio. It makes a hell of a difference, especially on speakers of this caliber. It makes a massive improvement to the sound. But they're the two main advantages of a DSP, amongst others, is time correction and EQ, and this is what this car's allowed us to do. And this car really does sound absolutely astonishing. One of, I mean, I've been here a long time, but I'd say it's in the top 10 of all the systems I've been in the 20 years I've been here. Anyway, let's get back out of the car and summarise what else we fitted. It's quite a lot, but at the same time it's not a lot because it's a very simple, small system, but it's very high end. So I'm going to run through the equipment, and also I'm going to run through some pricing. Doesn't happen very often. We don't go through a lot of pricing on the equipment, but this one I'm going to give an indication of what a high-end audio system in this Porsche platform would cost. So starting with the door woofers you saw earlier in the video, the big 9-inch woofers, which are quite a complicated job to fit. There's no easy way of putting these in Porsche 997 doors, but so well worth it. These absolutely outperform pretty much any other mid-bass speaker on the market. These are the late carbon NW9s, coming in at £1,469. That's the 9-inch door woofers at the bottom of the front of the door. We then move slightly further up the door to the mid-range. These are the late carbon MM3s. These are £950 for the pair. Moving on to the tweeters that are in the factory position in the dashboard. Probably the biggest tweeters you're going to get underneath those original grills in this platform. These are the MT450s that I mentioned earlier in the video. £579. We then got the source head units, the Kenwood DNX9190, the best, pretty much the best 7-inch screen on the market available right now. 5-volt pre-outs, gold pre-outs, extremely, it got a lot of audio setting up, but we're not using any of it because we've got a good amplifier on this, but £1,450. We've then got the powerhouse amplifier, which drives all the speakers in the vehicle, as I mentioned earlier. This is the AFM 8.14 Audison amplifier with built-in digital signal processing. This is £1,250. And the only box I don't have here is the rear speakers. I messed up there. I don't know where that is. I'll find that shortly. That is the hybrid 4-inch coaxials in the back. They're £800. And then you probably got about £500 to £600 in cables, accessories, and soundproofing. I mean, just the RCA phono lead to go from the Kenwood to the amplifier alone is £150 from Stinger, top of the range one. So all in all, you know, you're talking about roughly about £7,500 in equipment, and then we've got about 2 weeks worth of work for us installation. So obviously labour on top of that. Now this is obviously a high-end audio system. Now the results, I'd love to showcase that on camera, but it's just impossible without a very expensive microphone, which we don't have here. But I've sat in this car now, I listened yesterday after Simon fully EQ'd it. I actually listened to this car before it was EQ'd, and because these speakers are so good, and maybe the platform's also very good, but actually it sounded incredible with just time correction. We've since then we've done an EQ and it sounds even better. I mentioned earlier in the video we weren't sure about whether we're going to retain the factory subwoofer because we wanted to try it, because you never know, a little subwoofer might just help with the bottom end side of it. It did work okay, but it did not keep up with the 9-inch woofers in the door. There is no need to retain the factory subwoofer in this. So we've disconnected that. That is not doing anything. It doesn't need to. These 9s play comfortably all the way down to sub 30 hertz. So it's like having a pair of subwoofers in the car. But yeah, it sounds absolutely incredible. Yeah, one of the best Porsche systems I've heard. It's a very good platform. We've got a few Porsche videos on our YouTube channel, but this is definitely the best I've heard so far. Hopefully we'll get another chance to do another one just like this, but this system is also compatible with the 991 and 992 platform and pretty much all the SUV style Porsches as well. So very versatile system, compatible with pretty much the whole Porsche platform except really old ones. So hopefully we'll get another one of these in to do a very similar job, because this just works. Extremely easy system, very simple layout, 1 amp, 3-way speakers in the front fully active, and the rear speakers there just run off the head unit as a bit of rear fill. Don't need to be overpowering because they're quite close to the front driver. No need to have it them on an amplifier. Obviously you could do if you wanted. I think I'm going to finish the video there because there's not much more I can say. You've seen it all. You've seen all the progress throughout the video. You've seen the installation side of it, how we do it. You've seen Simon doing the install work, so you know how we operate here, and this is a cracking system. But if you've got any questions on this whole system, drop us an email or send us a WhatsApp message on our number that I'm sure is in the description. But please don't forget to carry on supporting our channel. We really appreciate it. This is John Cleese Car Audio's YouTube channel. My name's Connor. Max is behind the camera. But from all the team at John Cleese Car Audio, we wish you well. See you soon.